Tēnā koutou katoa no mai haere mai. Welcome to No Boundaries, where we are talking all the latest in cricket. I'm Kimberly Downs. Fantastic to have a couple of esteemed guests with us today as well. Former Black Caps coach Mike Hesson first up. Hes, you keeping well?
Very well, thanks, Kim. Good to be here.
Oh, great to have you with us. And we've also got former Black Cap and Otago Sparks coach Craig Cumming joining the show. We're very Dunedin-centric today. Craig, you keeping well as well? Great to have you on the show with us.
Yeah, very well, thank you. Great to be here and looking forward to talking some cricket.
Yes, indeed. And we've got plenty to go through as well. We're going to be talking the Black Caps in the wake of that 63-run loss to Sri Lanka in Galle, but we're also going to be talking White Ferns later on. Now, they are up in their third T20 against Australia straight after the show, so do stick around for that. First things first, though, let's rip into the Black Caps. Now, a tricky one, this test. They had opportunities to win, unfortunately. However, the last morning, where we might have kept a little bit of hope, turned into a bit of a damp squib. The Sri Lankans able to roll the end of the Black Caps innings and in the end win by 63 runs. Yes, like I mentioned, a lot of opportunities for New Zealand in that one. How do you feel about how it turned out?
Yeah, probably a little bit of frustration because New Zealand actually played some really good cricket at times throughout that test match. And I thought the first 2 days, especially after losing the toss, to finish the end of day two almost ahead of the game, very much ahead of the game, was a really good effort. And I thought New Zealand were excellent, very disciplined that first innings with the ball. Missed a couple of opportunities. They missed Kamindu when he was on about 20 off Mitch Satney, went on to get 100. And that was probably got them to a point where they got a well above par score. But batting first, for New Zealand to be 291 for 5, only sort of 15 runs behind, 5 wickets in the tank, there was plenty of talk about a potential lead. And that was the time when New Zealand had to grab that opportunity. And unfortunately, the run out of Daryl Mitchell, for me, was the turning point in this test match. You had Mitchell, you had Phillips, probably our last recognised pair at the crease. The run out of Mitchell, probably just a lack of communication, a lack of sort of awareness of the situation. And then, the rest of the innings unfolded, to a point where New Zealand only got a really mediocre lead. And when you have to bat last in Galle, you need, close to a 100-run lead to probably be slightly ahead of the game, and New Zealand were unable to do that. So a small missed opportunity, but plenty of good spots as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because at that stage I remember thinking, this is one of those bat once sort of scenarios, and it was a little bit surprising that they weren't necessarily able to do, like you say, better than what they were able to do. Craig, for you, where did things sort of go wrong?
Yeah, sentiments of what Mike's just talked about, and I think the key moment, and you never want to have run-outs, is when Mitchell got run out. He was playing nicely. New Zealand, as he said, were 291 for 5. They were in a strong position to do what you just said, can bat once, to get a lead of, maybe 100, 120 if things went really well. And you always know when you're going out to bat in your second innings, when you've got a deficit, that it's just a different pressure. You've got to bat a long period of time just to get evens. And New Zealand, that unfortunately, was an awareness from Mitchell not backing up, was Phillips not realising everyone's not as quick as him. But that was crucial. But also, if you look through the New Zealand innings, a lot of starts, but no one went on to get that 100 in that first innings. So, yeah, I'm with Hess. I think frustration, it's a what-if moment when it comes to this test match. And even in the second innings, there were opportunities, but when you were chasing 250 plus in the final innings, especially in Galle, your backs are against the wall. New Zealand had opportunities, even if they had a batted well. I thought Williamson was looking in control, like he always does. I love watching him bat, especially against spin, but then he got stumped. And once he went, even though Ravindra batted beautifully, you always felt they were always behind the 8 ball as opposed to in front of it.
Well, I do want to hone in on some of the individual players as well. But first of all, I just wanted to pick up on something you said there around that lack of ability to kind of stick around and knuckle down at the crease from a batting perspective. And that applies to a number of the batters across both of the New Zealand innings in this case. Yes, why do you think that is?
Oh, look, I think, to be fair, the whole top 7 actually looked like they had a really clear game plan. And I was actually pretty impressed in terms of, there was a lot of counter-attacking. In Galle, so many sides go over there and look to defend and wait for poor balls. And you just can't do that against Sri Lanka. There will be a ball with your name on it, one that turns and bounces. And if you're defending, you've actually got to remove players from around the bat. So you saw a lot of sweeping, a lot of reverse sweeping, from Latham, from, Tom Blundell, even Daryl Mitchell. he got ahead of the game because he was able to sweep and reverse, even Kane. So then you can manipulate the field. You can take out one or two of those catches. So then when one does turn, there's not always, guys around the bat to take that chance. So, I was actually quite impressed in terms of the game plans that the guys had. They just said couldn't quite do it for long enough, as CC alluded to. It was like, the 30s, 40s, 50s, needed to be, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then you get a score of, that 400, 420 in the first innings. But yeah, I just thought there were some good signs. I mean, other than Devin Conway, who looked like he was battling, all the rest of them, showed good signs. But the lower order weren't able to contribute anything. And that sort of shows how in the subcontinent the game can change so quickly. You can be 291 for 5, all of a sudden you're out for just over 300 and you're behind the game. So you've got to stay in the game for that little bit longer.
Well, you mentioned Devin Conway there, so let's talk about him now. Obviously, he has had a bit of a torrid run in Tests, particularly when you look at his scores of late. He hasn't scored over 50 since I think it's March last year. Craig, from your end, what would you be doing with him? And from a coaching perspective, what are you saying and doing to help him work through this kind of form slump that we just aren't used to seeing from Devin Conway?
I thought you were going to say Kim there because I know what it feels like to be struggling for that longer period of time in international cricket.
I wouldn't stitch you up like that. Not on this show.
No, but I certainly know how he feels. He's a class player. We know that. And, he'll be working exceptionally hard away from the game. It's amazing what confidence does. And when Devin Conway started his international career, he was super confident. And at the moment, the question is, he's probably looking under every rock, every pillow to find an answer. And I suppose along with his coaching staff, it's trying to simplify things, make sure he trusts his game. And when you get in that situation, you're just desperate to get runs. So you've got to be careful because you've got to try and say, right, that's an outcome. And I know this is a little bit technical, but let's just focus on one ball at a time. And I always remember Mark Richardson talking about, when you're struggling, and he said he always felt like he struggled every ball. Just try and win that one ball. And that's all you can really do. The key is trying to make sure you stay nice and clear and just react. Because we know when Devin Conway is in that mindset and able to play and just react, he's got the skills. So behind the scenes, it's trying to keep things simple, keep trusting himself, keep giving him confidence. And it literally just takes one ball to hit the middle of the bat and you get that feeling back. But we desperately need it. And the thing at the moment with Conway is he's finding different ways to get out. So, again, keep it simple, keep the confidence high and try and just help him just one ball at a time. That would be my message anyway.
And Hess, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well, because you, of course, oversaw a time with the Black Caps when there was a lot of confidence building going on. What do you make of his situation? What would you be doing to help him out?
Yeah, I think Craig's spot on. His technique hasn't changed a lot. The difference is that his contact point is slightly further out front. So we always know that he's got a closed bat face when he bats. And often he has that little inside edge, down the fine leg, or he looks a little bit uncomfortable around leg stump. That hasn't changed, even when he was averaging 50 in Test cricket. But the difference is the impact point. So rather than making impact, right under his eyes where he can control the bat face, he's about a foot out in front. So it's often closed. You don't get any timing on the ball. Therefore, you don't get the confidence that you're searching for. So I do a lot of work around that. Yeah, showing him when he's playing well, so sort of reinforcing the fact that it's not a massive shift, and it's just that confidence in terms of hitting the ball more under your eyes. And there are a number of drills you can do in terms of hitting the ball into the ground at practice, so you're starting to get that feeling of hitting the ball late. Then you've got to add the pressure of a competition where the anxiety makes you push out at the ball. And he's just got to get to that point where he does enough at training where he can trust his technique and just revert back to hitting the ball a little bit later.
Oh, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for him that he can return to form soon. We would all very much love to see that, no doubt. Let's have a look now at Rajan Ravindra, because he, as is increasingly becoming the case, has been one of the bright lights of this Test team and this Test performance with that 92-run effort in the final innings. Unfortunately, was not able to see the team through to a victory. However, I thought it was a very brave, I would say, 92 in that final innings. What did you make of his performance, Craig?
Yeah, likewise. I think, Rutchin, he got a lot of opportunities early on for New Zealand, probably in white ball in the subcontinent. He, went over to Bangladesh, I remember, in the T20, so played in some pretty tough conditions. And I think early on in his career, even his test career, he batted 7 in India when he made his debut. So he's learned to play and how to play against quality spin bowling. And he's adjusted his technique. He's very positive now. It's the thing that I note, and even he's talked about the way that New Zealand have played. I think they all are. They're all very good at understanding how to score runs. I mean, if you just go out to bat to survive, like probably we did in the old days, you're not going to survive. And I think Rutchin's worked out his method really well. Plays beautifully off the back foot. He's really been able to do that. On the back foot, he opens his front hip up. So if the ball's turning in, he doesn't get caught closed off, but he's still able to access the offside. He's obviously good at using his feet. I just think it's at the moment, again, when we talk about Devin Conway, as he said, there's a small technical thing, but when the mind's good, the technique's often good. And I think with Rutchin at the moment, the mind's good. He's confident, he's clear, and you go out and back yourself. And that's often the small differences you need. And we're seeing with him, he's had a heck of 18 months. So he believes in himself. And he's going out to score runs, and he believes that he can do that against any bowler in all conditions, and he's made his game suit that as well.
We do need to move on to the White Ferns team, but just quickly before we do, I'll get from both of you, starting with Hess, any changes that you would make for the second test, which starts on Thursday?
Look, I wouldn't. I think they'll look at Tim Southee. They talked pre-tour around potentially rotating the quicks. I think you've got to play Will O'Rourke, that pace and bounce, where he was exceptional in this test match and showed what a promising player he is for New Zealand. So, look, I don't think there needs to be any changes. I think those that played the test match have got gained plenty of experience from that test match in Galle, so I wouldn't waste that in terms of trying to make too many changes.
And for you, Craig?
Yeah, again, just maybe a little bit of rest, not sure how they are, but maybe Bracewell could come in for Satner, just having another option with the spin, turning the ball away from the left-hander. Phillips is obviously there, and maybe he gives you a little bit more with the bat as opposed to Satner. But yeah, on with Hess, you give guys opportunities to keep showing what they've learned and get better.
Right, let's turn our attention to the White Ferns for a bit, shall we? They are currently 0-2 in their 3-match T20 series over in Australia. Weren't able to defend a total first, weren't able to chase one second. The T20 World Cup is just around the corner. The warm-ups actually start later this month. Team, what can we take from what we have seen, and what do you want to see from them heading into the third T20 that'll give you a bit of faith leading into this World Cup? We'll start with you, Hess.
Look, I actually thought there were some promising signs. Australia are very, very good, and they've got a huge amount of depth, and they are one of the best in the world for a reason. So we will be challenged in those conditions. I thought Molly Penfold showed some real promise in terms of bouncing out Beth Mooney. That's great to see. She showed some good pace and bounce. For a young player, only 23, not a huge amount of cricket. Thought she was good. Izzy Gaze, once again, that finishing role is really difficult, and she shows she's pretty fearless in that and willing to take the game on, and that's sort of an addition to what we already have. Brooke Halliday, I think that ability to be a sixth bowler looks like there'll be some more confidence that the White Ferns would have taken for that heading into the World Cup. They can structure their side around knowing that she's more than capable of being able to do that job. So, and then Mealy Kerr obviously would have got some confidence from her forfer. Suzie Bates, some time at the crease. So look, plenty of positives. I think we want to see some more tonight. Against Australia in this third game, and hopefully they can get a win either in this or the game against India prior to the World Cup, just to get that bit of self-belief back in the group.
Yeah, and for you, Craig, you're across a lot of the women's cricket scene, New Zealand A women's coach. You know a lot of the talent that is coming through as well. Are there players coming through who are pushing some of these established White Ferns for spots at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. Contrary to what's been said, I was involved with the New Zealand A versus England A in the 50-over series, and we beat them 2-1. We were able to score 290 twice. We got 240 and bowled out in 40 overs. So we were scoring at 6 and over. Yeah, I truly believe we have. We've got players that can be slightly different, but they could probably get the same output as some of the ones there. I think the key is what Hess just talked about. He mentioned all the bowling. We've got to get our batting right. We've got to be able to score runs. The other day to bowl Australia out, one of the top teams in the world for 140, that's your opportunity to go out and win. We've just got to get a bit more, I suppose, proactive with our batting. It's not easy, but we've got to be able to manipulate the field. We're not a power hitting side unless Sophie Devine gets going. So we've got to play with high skill, manipulate the field placements, and be able to, I suppose, generate strike rate. Far too many dot balls. I think 48 dot balls in that second T20. You need your dot ball percentage, dot balls to be below 30. So we can do it. Yep, absolutely. I think they will gain a bit of confidence from that. At the end of the day, we don't have to beat Australia in this series. We just got to beat them in the World Cup. So if we keep getting better in this series, then we go to the World Cup. That's the one we want to tip them up. So just keep getting better, Don't show them all our cards. And then in the World Cup, just go, there we go. That's the one that counts.
Oh, that's too easy. Craig Cummins just wrapped it all up. No worries, girls. Just go out and beat Australia in the World Cup. Bada bing, bada boom, just like that. When it comes to that World Cup, though, I mean, so often it is these pinnacle events, isn't it, where you see successful teams inspiring future generations. Craig, I just want to stick with you on that note and how important this World Cup is and the performance that this team puts in at this World Cup to make sure that the younger girls coming through can see what they can aspire to and see what sort of opportunities the game has for them.
Oh, absolutely. And I think New Zealand cricket's got to get, well, not better. We've got to be more, I suppose, proactive and being louder at letting our young generation know how good a career it can be. The highest paid sportswoman, other than Lydia Ko, in New Zealand are women cricketers. You know, we've got Sophie Devine, Amelia Kerr earning really good money, like close to nearly 7 figures probably, if you added it all up. So we've got to show the next generation this is a proper career. But we've also then got to give them the pathways and the opportunities to come and enjoy themselves and be able to be successful along that line. But I think we're getting there. I think there's some great work going on. We've got the New Zealand under-19/development team in Australia at the moment. They've got a World Cup. More resourcing is getting put into the women's game. But there is truly proper opportunities for young girls playing the game of cricket to create a career. We've got probably 16 players in England at the moment playing in the winter, about to come back to our summer. So, yeah, we've got to get better and be, I suppose, cheerleaders of our game because there are real opportunities for our next generation to make a really good living out of it.
And when it comes to cheerleaders of our game, I think I can think of few better really than a couple of the very established White Ferns. I'm talking the likes of Sophie Devine, I'm talking your Suzie Bates. I mean, here's how important is it that those two players in particular really start to stand up at this period for this team if they are to have any form of success at this World Cup?
Yeah, look, I think, they are two massive players, and Craig's alluded to the batting. And the batting is the area where, the White Ferns have got to find a way to get, 160, 170, 180 in those conditions. Maybe not at Sharjah, but certainly in Dubai. So, the players that are going to do that are your Amelia Kerr, your Suzie Bates, your Sophie Devine. And Sophie very much is the only power player, but the other two can manipulate the ball really nicely. The one challenge that we'll have is in Sharjah when there's no pace on the ball is we've got to find ways to score in front of the wicket, and that's where that experience of someone like Suzie Bates is so important. Explaining to the rest of the playing group, hey, how can we find other ways to score? And Suzie and Amelia, those three are the ones that are going to have to not only score a large amount of the runs, but also share a lot of their experience and knowledge of going, hey, it might feel like you can't get off strike, as Craig's alluded to with all the dots, but you can find a gap here and you can find a gap here. And maybe you have to be more proactive and move across the crease or whatever it is. But it's different. It's a lot different than playing in New Zealand conditions. But I do think there is some talent there for sure. And it's exciting that, as I talked about Izzy Gaze, I think she's one who has showed that she does play with real freedom. And I like that. Georgia Plym is one who we haven't seen the best of yet, but clearly the White Fern selectors have seen something that they want to see more of. And I really hope that she gets all of these opportunities right up to the World Cup and beyond to just show how good she is, because they can't make a change now. I think they've just got to commit and say, look, we've got you for the World Cup. We trust you. We back you. We want you to come out and play with a bit of freedom and show us your skills.
When you look at who they do have to face for that World Cup in pool play, you've got India, you've got Australia, you've got Sri Lanka, you've got Pakistan in those, as you mentioned, Dubai conditions. Craig, for you, what teams would you go about targeting for that pool play?
Well, you got to target everyone really, Kim, because only the top two go through. So at the end of the day, you just got to focus on the first one. And then, as he said, it was interesting. I heard the other night Lisa Healy talking about the way New Zealand were playing. They were trying to do the reverse and the laps, and she said they're not too worried by that because they know they've been spending the winter training hitting in front of the wicket, trying to hit down the ground because the conditions they're going to, they need to play that way. So. If we didn't know that, then that was a really good comment to hear from one of the world's best and the captain of Australia, the way they want to play the game. We've just got to go out and, as he said, it's understanding your game and how do I get off strike. If we can score off a high percentage of balls, it doesn't matter. And if we can create a pressure, if we bat first, put runs on the board and get enough runs to be able to string. We've got a good bowling attack. We've got plenty of experience. We've got good seamers. We've got good spinners. That's our strength. But we've also got to be really good in the field. The other night we saw a couple of simple drop catches that we just can't afford. We've got to be, in some ways, we've got to be perfect in the field, even better than perfect. But we've got to have that mindset where we've got to embrace that, not be afraid of it, and actually go, right, let's go out. And what's the worst that's going to happen? Well, we could get knocked out. Well, that's probably going to happen if we don't go out and embrace that sort of stuff. So hopefully they're gaining that experience. They're gaining those things. Being on tour, there's nothing like being on tour at the moment. They're around each other. They've put a lot of work in and they've had 3 big camps. So hopefully those conversations are happening. I know Craig McMillan's there too, who worked alongside here. So he'll be giving them a huge amount of experience and conversations around what they're expected. So, I think Macca will have a big impact on that group as well.
Do you feel the same way about Macca Hess? What impact will he be having?
Yeah, he'll definitely have plenty to say. Don't worry about that. He's huge. And look, he is a real competitor. I think we know that, and that's exactly what the White Ferns need. They need that in their group. He will find ways. He will give them plenty of confidence to go out and make the odd mistake, and that's kind of what you have to do. Because as Craig said, if we just go out there and just play conservatively, there's no doubt we will be coming home. But we've got to test ourselves. We've got to go out there and try, and we've certainly got that ability. And I'm sure within that group, and Craig will add. With Sophie, Sophie's a really positive person as well. Go out there and say, hey, let's take this tournament on. And if we take the tournament on and we get off to a good start, hey, you just never know. Knockout tournaments are a place where New Zealand can always overachieve. So I don't think there'll be any difference in the UAE.
Well, when it comes to the series that is coming up, like I mentioned, the third T20 right after the show, so very shortly. In fact, let's just give a bit of a hat tip to the Aussies, who remain the standard when it comes to women's cricket. A ton of star power. Craig, who do you look forward to actually watching the most when you watch the Aussies?
To be honest, all of them, you're right. I always love watching Lisa Healy play. I love the way she's evolved the game from when she first started to now. She goes out and she's a power player, but she can hit on the offside, she can hit on the leg side. And Ash Gardner, when Ash Gardner's going, I don't think there's a better striker of the ball in the women's game. So those 2 players are ones that you're always watching, and they've always got the ability to pull in brilliant spinners. Even though pace is important, they've brought in, they've got Molyneux, they've got the leg spin. They just have a great balance. But you're right, they've got amazing depth, but they've also got great structures and great coaching. So. We'll never compete with them around the money, we know that, but we can also watch what they do from their attitude point of view and the way they do things. But yeah, Alyssa Healy and Gardner are the 2 that I always watch and enjoy.
Who are you most looking forward to watching tonight?
Elise Perry. I was able to work with Elise at RCB for a while, and she is a real quality player, both sides of the wicket. She sweeps, reverses. Can come down the ground, hit it down the ground for 6. Like, she is a high quality player, and she can bowl at 125 k's an hour as well. So, just a fine cricketer, fine athlete in the field. So, for me, always enjoy watching her play.
Absolute superstars, as are the both of you. Thank you so much for your time, Mike Hess and Craig Cumming. That is all we have time for here on No Boundaries. Stick around though. The third T20 between the White Ferns and Australia coming right up. From us though, Paul Maria.